It was a goal when I started to start working on bigger projects that would be more substantial. Like I felt really dedicated at that time to like doing smaller things also, but I didn't know how to really get to the bigger stuff unless it fell in my lap.
Welcome to the Smart Gets Paid podcast with me, Leah Niederthal. I help women land higher paying clients in their independent consulting businesses, but I've never been a salesperson. My background is in corporate marketing, and when I started my first consulting business, I learned pretty quickly that it's about 1,000 times harder to sell your own stuff than it is to sell someone else's. So I taught myself how to do it, and I created the sales approach that I now share with my clients so they can feel more comfortable in the sales process, get more of the right clients, and get paid way more for every client contract. So whether your client contracts are $5,000, $100,000, or more, if you want to work with more of the clients you love, do more of the work you love, and get paid more than you ever thought you could, then you're in the right place. Let's do it together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate, review, and share. Hey there, Leah here, and thanks for tuning in. I hope wherever you are right now, wherever you're listening to this, I hope you're having a great week, making some good progress in your business, and taking some time for you. So a few years ago, when I was maybe 6 or 7 years into my business, I started to realize something. So by that point, I had been running 2 different programs. One called Pack Your Pipeline, which helped consultants use LinkedIn for their business and get leads, and another called Signed, which helped them lead a sales process and close clients and get paid more. But you can think about it like I had 2 programs, one to get the leads and one to close the leads and get paid more. So one to do marketing and a separate one to do sales. And they were working, clients were getting results, but I started to feel this nagging feeling that I was really only solving part of the problem. Like, how do you get leads using LinkedIn, which we did in Pack Your Pipeline, if you don't even know who your best clients are, which is something we did in Signed? Or how do you lead a successful sales process and get a yes, which we did in Signed, if you're not attracting the people who actually have the problem that you solve, which we did in Pack Your Pipeline? It started to feel like I was forcing people to pick which problem they wanted to solve. But I knew that to truly have a profitable, sustainable consulting business, you need to do both. And what that meant was that I wasn't really having the impact that I wanted to have, which was to truly enable women consultants to have a system for getting leads and a system for landing them. So essentially a marketing system and a sales system so that they could truly run more profitable, sustainable businesses. So I made a big decision and I brought those 2 programs together along with tons of other strategies that I really didn't have a home or a place to put them before. And I created the Academy, which is my program that helps women consultants build a sustainable consulting business by solving the whole problem. And I talked about this a lot more in episode 31 if you're interested in that whole journey. So it's episode 31 called The Biggest Decision in My Business. And I was thinking about that process while I was editing this episode, because the woman I'm talking to today was experiencing a very similar nagging feeling around her impact. Today, I'm talking to Carrie Bornstein, who's a former nonprofit CEO who now does strategic consulting for Jewish nonprofits. And when Carrie started her business, she was doing mostly smaller, sort of one-off projects. But she had that same nagging feeling that I had, which was that she wasn't having the impact that she wanted to have. And she knew that she needed to shift to bigger, more meaningful work, not just to hit her income goals, but because she came from the nonprofit world where impact was everything. And really, she was in the business to have an impact on her clients. So in our conversation, Carrie shares how she made that shift and how she started getting bigger projects with bigger impact and how she really started to build a business that feels really good to run. So in this episode, you're going to hear how Carrie started landing bigger, more substantial projects while working less and feeling less stressed. You're going to learn the unexpected mindset shift that helped her stop, quote unquote, making it up as she went, and really start leading with confidence. You're going to hear how she made her work more replicable and more sustainable without becoming generic. And you're going to see how she built a business that not only supports her financially, but lets her have the impact she actually wants to have. So take a listen to my conversation with Carrie Bornstein. And at the end, I'll come back and share a lesson that you can apply to your business. And then hopefully someday soon, you'll partner with us to help you build your consulting business, and you'll come back on the podcast and share your story. Enjoy. Carrie, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure to be here. It's a little wacky, but thank you.
Why wacky?
I have listened to the podcast since minute 4 of my getting into consulting, and everyone that I have listened to on the podcast seems like they're doing so well and like have it together. And I don't know, I mean, obviously there's like messiness and there's challenge and all of that, but it's just like, it's a little surreal to be like, oh wait, am I in that category of, yeah. So.
Well, you're here. I invited you here because of the progress that I've been seeing in your business. And yeah, no, you're here. Like, get used to it. You're doing well. So let's talk about it. So why don't you introduce yourself?
So I'm Carrie Bornstein. I live in the Boston area with my 3 kids, with my husband, with my dog. And I work with Jewish organizations to help them develop clarity and alignment and do it in a way that is like straightforward and actionable and clear so that they can face the future with confidence and feel good about where they're going and that they have their teams aligned to get there.
What were you doing before this?
I was the CEO of a nonprofit organization in the Boston area. I was there for almost 15 years total. And then I took over after the founder and was in the CEO role for about 12 years, which was an extraordinary experience. It was wonderful. I learned so much in so many ways, and ultimately came to the point where I felt like I had done what I was kind of cut out to do there. And I felt really good and proud of the success and was ready for a new challenge. And so then I, maybe a little bit accidentally, I don't know, moved into the world of consulting since then.
What do you mean by accidentally?
So when I was leaving, I didn't have any plan for what I was going to do. I knew that my 2 requirements we're sticking around in the Boston area, and I want to spend some time not being a CEO. I was like, those are my 2 requirements. And I was looking around for other jobs, and I ended up picking up, there were a couple of different projects that came to me that I took on feeling like, okay, this will buy me some time while I look for the right thing and just give me a little cushion because I needed to work and could be combined with a full-time job. And time kept going on, and I just felt like I just wasn't excited about the things that I was seeing. And it sort of occurred to me wait a second, what if this actually was my strategy? What if I did consulting and did project work and did my own thing? And so I decided to just put my job search on pause. And I said, I want to give this 3-4 months. I'm going to dive into it and just see what happens and see if it happens. And when it happened, it just it started rolling from there. So I was like, okay, here I am doing this now.
Awesome. I talked to a lot of women who also sort of accidentally started a business, right? Or accidentally became a consultant. It's a lot more common. It's a lot more common than you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what year was that?
That was 2023. I left, I gave 7 months notice to my job because I was just I want this to be a long runway. I want to be public about my job search and not pretend that, that I'm all in when I'm really looking. And so it was 7 months of just didn't find anything. And then this summer, it was I think August or September of 2023 that I was okay, I'm going to do this.
So when you came into my orbit, or the Smart Gets Paid orbit, what was going on in the business at that point? I mean, you reached out to us for a reason. What were the reasons?
Yeah. So first of all, I reached out. I don't know if you remember. I reached out at minute 1 that I could, or minute -3. I was I'm sort of at 18 months. Let me just reach out and see. It's waiting. I like had a mental note in my calendar, in my mental calendar of like when I want to start this thing and when I want to explore it. Because I would say two main reasons. One was like, I just felt like I couldn't get enough of the podcast. That like every time I listened, I was like, yes, but how do I do that? Like, it was just like, yeah. So I had that. I just felt like the content that I was getting from that was really worthwhile. And I felt like I like structure. I needed more structure to know, like, so how does this work? And like, I felt like I was just reinventing the wheel with so much of it and trying to make things up on my own that I just didn't have any model for seeing the insides of, like, how do people do this? So I didn't like that I was flying by the seat of my pants constantly. That just like didn't feel great. And I wanted specifically I remember it was a goal when I started to start working on bigger projects that would be more substantial. I felt really dedicated at that time to like doing smaller things also, but I didn't know how to really get to the bigger stuff unless it fell in my lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without that, you mentioned the structure, right? You were like flying by the seat of your pants. I mean, how did that play out from day to day or week to week? I mean, how did that feel when you were doing that?
I think it felt like good and exciting in some respects because I still am like so enthralled with the fact that I have time to like research things or look into things that I'm excited about that in my CEO world, like just never had the bandwidth. If I like wanted to know about something, it's just like, make it up, keep moving because like there's no time. So I really loved the process of like discovering, like, let me do a Google search for this thing that I'm interested in. And like, that was fun. But also it didn't like, I never really knew if what I was doing and moving forward with was like actually going to get me where I wanted to go. So I would like try something and relying, I guess, like mostly on my instincts. I did another program like in the early startup days, and I was like connected with another community, but they didn't really give me the meat that I was looking for. I mean, yeah, I had like some consultant friends who were like so generous and like, here, let me send you my, the contract that I use. And I'll send you an example of this. And like, so great, so amazing. And was like, felt like I needed, I'm motioning with my hands here. So that
I was about to describe for the listeners this sort of need, this desire,
grasping,
grasping. There must be something more.
Yeah. I needed the meat. I needed to like have a burger in front of me and be like, this is what a burger looks like,
Yes.
Take that analogy.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm with you. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of fun in the early days, right? Like trying to figure everything out, because you do make these big leaps when you figure something out and you're like, I did it, and it feels so good. And the dopamine is like flowing or whatever. But yeah, I think that there is some sort of like transition, I'm also motioning with my hands just for everybody. Who Jews on a podcast, motioning with our hands, where you go from like the good feeling of figuring it out gets lower, and the feeling, that questioning of like, but what did I figure out? Like, did I do this right? Becomes more of the dominant question.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a little emotionally exhausting to constantly be questioning, like, I think this feels good, but like, is it? And did it work just because it worked in this scenario, or did it work because this is like a good process to go through? And how do I deal with this, that, and the other like weird thing that's coming up?
I think you hit on something really important, which is like, did it work? Is this the best way it could be, or did it work just in this case? Mm-hmm. Right? Because I hear that, some version of that a lot. That's what it looks like when you're sort of making it up as you go, using bits and pieces here. And really, I think what you discover is like every client is different and their situation is different, and how they say are able to say yes is different. And so I think that's when I hear people are like, I don't really know if I've ever got it figured out, that's sort of what it is. It's like it might have worked in one case or two cases, but does it work all the time or, is it working as well as it could? Am I getting paid as much as I could be? That sort of thing. I think you really hit on something there. So let's talk about you wanted bigger projects and to do more substantial projects. Why was that important?
It's funny looking back on it now. I think I have a different answer to why it's important than I would have given you then. So I'll give you both answers. I think then, like initially, what I would have said is like, just if I want to hit the income goal that I want to hit for the year, I need a certain number of projects at each of these different levels. And, I don't want to say I like will never work for a, very small organization or do a very small thing, but like the scales were tipped too far in one direction. I was very lucky to get a big project, like when I was just starting out, that really carried me through and was like wonderful and is still like they've extended with me multiple times since then, which is great. So that like gave me some cushion, but a lot of my projects were just like very, very small. And it was like, just if I'm going to make the money that I need to make doing this, it's not going to happen from so many itty bitty. I need to like balance them out. Mm-hmm. That's what I would have said then. What I want to like add on to that is that I figure out how I want to say this. I'm in this work because I care, and I care about making an impact in the Jewish community and helping senior leaders like sustain themselves through their work and not feel so damn exhausted all the time, the way that I felt before October 7th, 2023. And it's only gotten more exhausting and more challenging to work in the Jewish community. And I want to help. So I'm able to make a bigger impact with bigger projects and more. If I'm doing a one-off little thing and that's all I'm doing, then I'm able to make a smaller impact. But if I'm able to work on a bigger challenge in a more extensive, ongoing way, then I can make more of an impact and I can help more. And so I think for my which is the profitability, emotional profitability or yeah, I want to feel like I am making an impact in the Jewish community and flexing my leadership muscles in just as real ways now as I was before when I was CEO, which was very clear. I led an organization, I led a team, we created a national network, and it was very clear, big scale, the impact that I was making. And that's different. We're a consultant. And so the more I can dig in now, the more I feel I'm actually doing something for the world.
I love that. That's so important. And I know that probably feels better too, to see how things were when you were the CEO of an organization and trying to really prevent people from sort of feeling the same burnout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so let's sort of fast forward to today and talk about, how things are as a result of making some of these changes. And then we'll talk about what helped you get there. So what have been some results that you've seen from, the work that we've done together? I mean, what's changed for the better? We could talk the business, talk money, you as a business owner. I want to hear all of
it. Where to begin? Okay. I'll start with just picking up on some of what I shared before, which is I have a structure now. I have a process now. I'm still getting comfortable with it. I'm still practicing. I'm still all of those things that take time. This is obviously not an overnight poof thing. But I think the biggest thing for me was the sales process, going through that. That was where I really wanted to dive in to start after getting some of the building blocks stuff done. And by the way, I always heard you talk about the painkiller statement, and I spun and spun for a year and a half trying to figure out what is my painkiller? What just really thinking about it and trying to figure it out and never felt comfortable and great about like how I referred to what I was doing. And then I don't know how long it took me to get through that portion of the program, but like the way that the activities were broken down and set it up, I was like, boom, 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 boom. Okay. I mean, I still like worked on it, but it was like, oh, there it is. I did that. It made it possible and like cut through all of my spinning in a way that like got me what I needed.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was going to say like, I was going to interrupt you and be like, you didn't struggle with this for a year and a half in the program, but correct. I do remember it was before before you had the map, the roadmap to actually do this.
Yep.
And I do remember that you got it pretty quickly. You really like embraced it. You embraced this process. Having the painkiller, I mean, how does that change?
It helps me lead with so much more confidence because when people are like, oh, what are you doing these days? When I'm like, oh, I'm not sure how to talk about it. Like that doesn't feel good. And so it helps me just like talk about what I do. It helps me think about how I am structuring things. It's given me a lot more confidence on LinkedIn, which I feel like I'm getting a handle on now. That's like another big change, I would say, of just, I feel like I kind of get LinkedIn now and I never got it. And it's like a weird place. And I still think it's a weird place. But now when I'm reaching out to strangers who I don't know at all and sending a connection request, like before, I wouldn't have even done that. Actually, I wouldn't have done that at all. And now I'm like, oh, I help Jewish organizations develop clarity and alignment so they can face the future with confidence. Like, of course they want to connect with me. Like, why? Like, I help do this. So it's like, it just gives me the mental confidence of like, yeah, I'm going to reach out to this person and see if I want to like connect on LinkedIn. It's like low stakes, So that's been helpful. Yeah.
What else? What else are some of the other game changers that do the work?
Yeah. I mean, I think just that confidence piece is huge. That specifically that I believe now I'm more comfortable relying on my expertise and crafting the work in ways that will be most useful for the client and sustainable for me. But that this is kind of a shift in going from smaller projects to larger projects is I'm more comfortable and know how to really try to zero in on the challenges that they're having. Because people don't typically show up on the phone and are like, I'm really having these problems. Can you help with X, Y, and Z? Like you have to, maybe in other parts of the consulting world, it is like that. But I find that it's it often starts much more surface level. When you dig and you get in there a little bit, I'm more confident now in how to really get under the surface with what's actually going on. And assuming I think I can help, I won't say that if I don't think I can, but if I think I can help, if I know I can help, I'm going to tell them. And I'm going to tell them how I think I can help. And most often, when I kind of give my summary recap of so here's what I am hearing of what's going on. Does that sound right? And what, I think what the real issue is X. They're like, wow, yeah, that's actually right. They're almost surprised to hear it. And so that the confidence that I have now and the ability that I have to zero in on that is, I think, a major part of what's made the difference between me saying, sure, I'll do this, small 2-hour workshop, right? To I just recently signed my first 12-month retainer. Never done that before. So I think that's really a way, that's been really important. And, the other thing that I'll say is my income has gone way up, higher than I really ever, when you say I work with people to help them make more money than they ever thought possible. That's me. So that's been incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. When I started, I realized that when I started the program, I had like a small amount in my pipeline, and that in 6 months in the program, I think I like almost quadrupled the amount of money in my pipeline, and that was from the same number of potential clients. So it wasn't like, oh, I now have this many more potential clients, and so that's that much more money. It was like, I think it was each time it was 6. Like when I started the program, I had 6 potential clients that I was talking to that had not yet been confirmed. Mm-hmm. And 6 months in, it wasn't the same 6 clients, but I also had just happened to have 6 potential projects in the works, but the potential income was significantly higher. And at this point now, I have, like, when I remember when we first spoke and you were asking me, like, I think maybe it was at like the holiday party. I don't know, like how much money do you want to make in the next year? And I gave this like very tentative, like, I think this, like probably minimum this much if it's possible, but like, oh my God, if I could make that much, that'd be great. And in the first 7 months of the year, I have already surpassed my maybe this much for the full year. And I am, unless something goes like totally off the rails, by the end of the year, I will have surpassed even my, like, oh my God, in my wildest dreams, if I could make that much. So like that, I'm stunned by it, honestly. I'm like, oh, wow, this is working. This is really working. And my husband's all the time, he's like, you don't seem stressed out. You're not like working like a mad one. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like yeah.
Amazing. So, amazing. Well, so, oh my God, all of this is so incredible. So what I was going to ask is, don't keep this in suspense. Like, were you able to reach your goal or achieve your goal of having bigger projects with bigger impact? And it sounds like, if you have the same number in your pipeline, but the value of that is quadrupled.
Correct.
That's one indicator. I think you have shared in our community that your average, like engagement has also increased.
Yeah.
And you're hitting your discomfort level income. I mean, that is incredible. And I think and doing that and not being stressed out. I mean, I think that's, and I said at the beginning of this that, like, this is before we started recording, I was saying that, the purpose of these conversations is to show women what's possible in their business. And because a lot of women have this like belief that, if they want to make more money, they're going to have to work way harder for it. Right. And way more. And it's going to cut into, they're going to have to sacrifice a lot of their time and whatnot. And, I think they probably, no fault of their own, like they probably have that assumption from like their past jobs, right? If if you got a promotion or if you did want to make more or do more or whatever, you were super stressed out and you did have to sacrifice. And so, but I think that, like, that's why I'm so excited to hear, you'd never told me this before about what your husband says, that you're not stressed out because, just showing what's actually possible.
Yep. And I would say actually the reverse is true, that as I've gone through the program and as my, like, the projects have increased and things like that, I've discovered how to like hone in on work that will be replicable to other projects in the future. So like, that's a big thing also, that when I was doing these smaller projects before, they were like these bespoke things that, it was like, this one would never have anything to do with anything else moving forward. And some of this even just came, I don't think that this is like explicitly taught in the program at all, but some of this is just seeing how you model that, of like kind of watching the way that you lead this program, of like, what can I do now to systematize this work? Because I know that it's going to be useful to another type of project that will be similar in the future. So I'm like creating more templates for myself and creating more models of how to replicate the work so that it's more of a just set kind of structure. I keep coming back to the word structure. But yeah, it's useful beyond just that moment. And that's I think what has helped me. It's just a more sustainable model.
Absolutely. So just to clarify, you're not thinking like, oh, how do I make a course? Because I'm in this course.
Correct.
And I'm seeing how you're starting to just notice and observe how more things are applicable, right? Like you're seeing patterns essentially.
Yes.
Well, and I think that's also a function of a lot of the things that we do in this program because, and this I think is somewhat related to you, but I hear it universally. It's like when you're taking the clients that happen to come your way, you are always responding to what they want.
Yes.
Right. And what they want could be vastly different, from project to project, or, within a range, but still different. And so you're sort of adjusting to that versus like being more proactive on the type of clients you want to work with and the work you want to do or whatever, so that you can sort of narrow in. And the before way, if you're just asking questions about like, what do you want me to do or whatever, versus really getting into, as you were talking about, like really getting into like the actual issues in discovery, like being able to do great discovery, you literally learn to hear things differently. I think you learn to hear things differently and listen for different things. And then also like, frankly, having a full pipeline and being like, you know what, this actually isn't the work I do, or there's somebody who's better suited for that. All of that really helps to narrow the scope of the problem that you're solving. And I think that like, a lot of women consultants really, it's funny. There are two camps as I'm sort of thinking about this. There are two camps. There are the people who are like, I really want work that's more replicable, right? Well, sort of what you're talking about. And then there is the other camp that's like, all my work is so bespoke, and they really see that as like a point of pride, And I think that, tell me if you've gone through this stuff, like, tell me if I think there's a middle ground where you can start to notice these things and you have more repeatable systems but still customize it to the client. But I think that I think there's no, to your point, like there's very little benefit of being like, everything is different all the time,
Correct. Yes. And that was one of the biggest challenges for me coming into this before I started the program, because when you lead a small nonprofit organization, you have to become really, really good at a lot of different things. There is no IT department that you can send your issues to. There's no HR department that you can ask your questions to, right? Like you just have to like be good at a ton of different things. And so when I was thinking about like trying to figure out, well, what is the work that I am going to do? Yeah, I could. And at first it was like empowering, like, oh, I could help in so many different ways. Like I've got so much expertise, a lot of which I never really wanted in the first place, but like, I know so much, I know I can help. And it took a little while and a little pipeline buildup to be able to say with some confidence of like, no, that's not the work I actually want to do, or that's not like actually what I'm best at, or like I still maintain it's super helpful that I understand the dynamics of all of these things. And like that still, I think, makes me a better partner for organizations that I work with, even if I'm not doing anything with, I don't know, HR stuff. Like the fact that I get what happens, in X, Y, and Z scenarios, like makes me more valuable. But yeah, I was able to then start leaning into like, oh, these are the actual issues that I care about working on, and like lets me lean into that leadership piece that I was talking about before. Like I really care about CEOs just being able to like take on their work and not have it suck the life out of them. I want them to be able to work with their boards in really effective ways. I want the boards to like be kick-ass, amazing group of leaders who are inspired by the work. And like, and I know like I can help with all that. So like, I'm going to lean into those areas and make things totally work for that organization that I'm working with. Like I'm going to design it to what they need, but I'm still like within this corner of the world.
And I think there's so much power in that. You know, when people ask me like, you know, what I always say is like, I'm not a business coach. I operate in a very small but important slice, which is like, how do you make the money, right? In the business. And I think that when you're able to say like, this is exactly where I play, I think there's so much power in that. And it builds confidence with the client.
Yep.
But I think what we're also talking about is, you know, just to sort of zoom out a little bit, it's like having these like more replicable programs or projects or what have you, or, you know, a range of replicable or things that are more replicable.
Yes.
You don't just like put the hammer down and you're like, now I have all these off the shelf programs, right? Because it's hard to sell that when the rest of the stuff is, you know, in the business development process is not dialed in. So this is why this is all part of a system. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, I don't know. I love the connectivity of it. You have to sort of have all the pieces in place and sort of dialed in.
I think one other thing that I will say has been really important is like on sort of the ending of the sales process that has been, I realize now, very important is the whole concept of the executive debrief.
Yes.
Of touching base with a client as the project is ending to review how did this go and what did you get out of this and what's still lingering or what's on your mind now. All of those things, like honestly, that never occurred to me to do before, and now it's brought me like there are multiple extensions that I've gotten because I've like taken the initiative to say like, let's touch base. And it's led to people on multiple occasions saying like, you know, here's where I think we're going next. Do you want to talk about what it would look like for me to help you with that? Yeah, sure. What's on your mind? Like, it's just like so natural of like, wow, that was a game changer.
I love it. And you're right. Like that part of the process is probably the most overlooked part of the sales process. It's the loyalty part. And yeah, it's so much easier to continue working with a client who loves you than try to get a new client. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that makes me so happy. Carrie, fill in the blank for me. I almost didn't work with you, or I almost didn't join the program because.
2 reasons. One was I was concerned about coming from the nonprofit space. If I was going to like feel like I was with my people in that way, if it was going to be like all corporate or just like a different language that I didn't understand because it's like all corporate stuff. And I have not found that to be the case at all. Like I'm glad I got over that one. Very, you know, it's just like, yeah, I think, you know, you said to me, like, you still need people to sell to and you need to know how to land them. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So yeah, that was a concern. And like the other one was the cost. I will say, like, you know, that was like scary to think about investing in myself in that way. I mean, not the concept of investing, like I like that, but like actually what it would take to do that. And I was like, just really trying to figure out, like, was this a worthwhile risk to take or not? And what tipped me over the edge to doing it was when you talked about the 30-day love it or leave it piece. If you like make a good faith effort and you're involved and like you're not loving it, then like, okay, you know, that's all right. So I was like, okay, that I haven't told you this. I was like, I'm going to haul ass through these first 30 days. I marked my calendar of like when the time limit was up. And I was like, I am just going to like, not with the intention of, oh, I'm going to drop out after that. But I was like, let me like plow through it and see if it feels worthwhile. And if it doesn't, then okay, I'll drop. And I was like,
I did not know that.
Yeah. So quickly, I was like, oh, this is going to be worth it. like as soon as I got into the portal and like saw what was actually there and started going through the lessons, I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm leaving this. But like, I was like, I went through a lot of the content up front because I was just trying to like cram it in and see what I could get. It was just like, okay, if I want to shift this from like it being a risk that I am taking on this program to feeling like good about taking on this program. So I was like, okay, like that was just what made the difference to me, being that I had an out if I needed it. Like,
I mean, the point is like, hopefully people either they know or they not, or they don't.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
completely.
Like, if you know this is wrong for you, figure that out quickly.
For sure. Yeah. But so that enabled me to feel comfortable taking the risk, because I think in the nonprofit world, it's so easy to fall into the whole scarcity mindset. Like you're totally operating from scarcity. And it's like, it's a little bit of a badge of honor of like, look what we can do on such a tight budget. And like your gift means so much because we're able to like make such an impact. But it means that there's not as much of a culture of investment and like thinking about how things can pay off. And so I totally came from that. I mean, my perspective has shifted so much on just what I wish I knew then. But this idea of investing in me that would have a real concrete payoff was like foreign. It's like a foreign language. That was a very big hurdle for me to get over, and worth every penny. Like I really believe that now. Totally worth it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And yeah, what a huge mindset shift. I mean, I'm sure that translates into a lot of other things in the business.
Yep.
It's not just like, Carrie Bornstein made money. It's like, no. There's a whole mindset thing that happened here.
Yep. As it turned out, I think it was like maybe a week after that deadline of like when I was just like locked in now. I think it was about a week after that my husband lost his job. And yeah, it was like right then. And I was like, oh my God. It was like scary because making that financial commitment after then he was out of work. And so that was super scary. And looking back on it, we would have been so screwed if I did not do this program. Like it has enabled these past months while he's been looking for work, which thank God now he's got some income coming in. But it has shifted these past months from being like what would have been total panic to like, okay. So that has been huge.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was around that same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know you are, but I'm so glad you were here.
Yep.
Carrie, what would you say to someone who's in the position that you were back then at the beginning of this process? What advice would you give her?
Join this program? I don't know. Like, this is like, sounds like such a lame response because I'm like, I literally am just like, I don't know what else to say, but like,
and I told you, remember at the beginning of this, before we started recording, I was like, listen, you don't say that. You don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the honest answer. That's the honest answer.
I mean, listen, like, reach out to people, get support. Like when people are just starting out with consulting, I have more substantial advice of like, just talk to everybody, like I know that I started listening to this before I ever joined this, I think that's my biggest advice for somebody who's like first starting out is just talk to everyone you can of like people who are consulting already, but also the potential types of clients that you want to work with, to like, just tell them what you're thinking about and ask how it lands, how it resonates, get feedback. Like I had so many conversations at the very beginning that were so useful to just like helping me develop my thinking about what I was doing and how I would do it. So I think that's my best advice for like early on. But then, yeah, I mean, it's just Yeah. You had said to me, when we spoke, like it often takes people, I don't know, 3 to 5 years to like get up to the speed on their own that, when people join the program, like they just have access to it right away. And I was like, yeah. Like, you're a barber. You're telling me I need a haircut. Okay. Like, but it's actually true. Believe Leah. If she says something to you, believe it. I don't know. That's my advice.
I love the healthy skepticism. I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got a good dose of that.
Carrie, where can people find you?
I am on LinkedIn, Carrie Bornstein, and my website is carriebornstein.com. And I would be so happy to connect with people who are interested.
Awesome. Yeah. Carrie, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me on and for everything that you are doing to support everyone. It's huge.
All right. What a great conversation, right? So if Carrie said anything that spoke to you, I hope you'll reach out and let her know. And of course, if there's someone you think should hear this episode, please share it with them. So there are so many great nuggets here, and I always like to pull out one lesson that you can apply to your business. And one lesson I hope you take from this episode is this, that you do not have to work more or sacrifice your time, energy, or happiness to make more money or have a bigger impact in your consulting business. And I say this because there's a really, persistent belief out there, especially among women, that if you want to grow your business or do more meaningful work, then you're going to have to grind for it. You're going to have to hustle. And that it's going to cut into and really come at the expense of your peace, your family, your time, your sanity, right? And that belief, it's just not true. But if you believe it's true, then it'll definitely hold you back from learning the very strategies that can make sure it doesn't happen, right? And this is actually one of the biggest shifts that we help women make inside the Academy. Because once you learn how to increase the value of your work and how to lead more strategic projects and how to price based on the value that your work creates, you can grow your income and your impact without burning yourself out. And that's really the job of value-based pricing. And it's why it's like literally the second thing we teach in the Academy. Because when you shift the way you position your work and the way you price it, then a lot of things start to change. And if you want to hear more about how to do this, check out episodes 97 and 98, where I walk you through exactly what that looks like. And of course, if you want to learn how to do it step by step with our help, then apply for the Academy at smartgetspaid.com/academy. And Carrie's story is just one of so many examples we see every day of women making this shift. And they're doing it in real time, growing their income, leading bigger and more impactful work, and doing it in a way that feels sustainable and aligned and just feels really good. And I mean, that's why we tell these stories, to show you what's possible. Because there are women out there who are running consulting businesses, in this way, but they're mostly hidden. And all of that sort of how they run their business is opaque to us, right? That's really the job of this podcast, is to show you what's possible. And I know it's probably easy to sit here and think, well, she can do it, but that wouldn't work for me, right? Or that would never work for my business, or that would never work for my industry, or that would never work for my clients, or, my clients are too this or that. They won't pay this, or they won't do this or whatever, or I'm so, unique that there's no way this will work. It's so easy to hook into that type of thinking. But that's still the limited belief, working overtime in your brain. I mean, listen, it's your brain doing what brains do, right? Trying to keep you safe by keeping you the same. But safe doesn't build the business that you want. Safe keeps you undercharging. It keeps you stuck in small projects, and it keeps you burning out. So if you hear yourself thinking, oh, that won't work for me, just know that that's the belief talking, not reality. And if you want something different, you've got to believe something different. So again, if you're holding on to that belief that you'll have to work harder and have more stress in order to make more money, let this episode be your permission slip to let that belief go and to start really pursuing the path that actually leads to more of what you want. Okay? So I'd love to hear what stood out to you from this episode. So take your biggest aha, post about it on LinkedIn, and tag me. I'd love to see it. I'd love to cheer you on and give you a signal boost. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.